started tile sticks.
Well, tile sticks was tie sticks, and then the L just fit in the middle for the tile.
We were just doing our own thing and having fun.
Dwayne picked up skateboarding quickly and took it into the mid-70s as its popularity surged. As skate parks cropped up across the nation and skate equipment advanced with new designs and materials, skateboarders took the ride to realms unimagined a decade earlier.
I think that he came up later because he was involved with skateboard mania.
But the massive popularity also conjured a lot of lame gimmick and spectacle. Skateboard mania was but one of those sideshows. Like a flash and glam skateboarding bastard baby of professional wrestling and the Ice-Capades, skateboard mania drew paying crowds to watch the Earthlings battle the Sci-Fions.
Skateboard queen, prettiest thing you've ever seen.
Skateboard mania was a concept in these Hollywood producers' minds as to how they can really take skateboarding into the big arena.
Pretty high budget Star Wars stage show, I guess you'd call it.
It was kind of like a Space Odyssey skateboard show.
An intergalactic battle between the Sci-Fions and the Earthlings.
The Ice-Capade Chalet of skateboarding or something like that.
Traveling around, skating on ice.
The Sci-Fions are kind of these bad creatures from another planet. They have green hair, and Dwayne Peters was the main Sci-Fion. Dwayne Peters is a Sci-Fion. He will always be a Sci-Fion. And he was just doing some incredible things, and the main thing that he did, which was really, I think, a milestone in skateboarding, was the 360 loop of death.
The Death Loop, a 14-foot tall steel and plexiglass pipe fed by a pair of steeply banked ramps. Show promoters hoped to wow the crowd with a 360-degree upside-down ride. Nobody had done anything like that before. Enter Dwayne, the 16-year-old unknown.
The whole ramp was plexiglass, it was clear. I don't know, I don't see how you can figure out where you are.
Dwayne charged it right off the bat and just did the loop.
I was working for Rad Ramp, helping put together ramps, and we built this thing. Dwayne was the only one I ever saw make it without the bag. After that, he broke his collarbone.
Quite a few times he rode all the way around and came out of the end of it and would either go up the ramp and eat it or go off into the parking lot and eat it, because there was just nowhere to go.
You know, I don't know what Dwayne went through with that, but I can only imagine it was very similar, that they were doing a loop and then just hitting the wall again. Without him, I would have never had the incentive to really try it or make it a reality.
The legend of Dwayne's battles with the Death Loop holds that he was the first and only to ride all the way around without a crash pad. These historic upside-down runs, however, would never find their way to film. Dwayne took a dive from the pipe ceiling, snapping his collarbone before cameramen could capture the make. And his trip to the hospital prompted skateboard mania promoters to ban Dwayne from ever riding the loop again.
No, but come on, how rad is that, the guy breaking his collarbone in the loop? That's pretty fucked up. I think skateboard mania was a waste of fucking time for all of them.
Locked down on contract with Skateboard Mania, Dwayne missed many of the professional bull rider contests of the day. Fortunately, his reputation with the loop pushed him into the spotlight, where he immediately set out to innovate himself from his pigeonhole as the El Rolo guy. With a background built from vertical concrete and a reputation as a gutsy groundbreaker, Dwayne set out to prove that he was a formidable all-around rider and a top contender in any competition or session. Bull riding became his specialty, both in backyards and in the skate parks. But a drunken accident put him in the hospital. Liquored up on stolen booze, DP took a header down some stairs at a New Year's Eve party in 1978. The fall shattered his left elbow. Doctors were barely able to save his arm. Dwayne spent 3 months hospitalized, dreaming of skateboarding the whole time.
Well, he almost died, and at one point they were thinking about taking his arm off. I think that started him on his drug trip. He was on morphine for months.
Meanwhile, outside at the skate parks, the current crop of pros fought against each other in what would become some of the most competitive and memorable contests in skateboard history. Released from the hospital and finally back on his board, Dwayne had some catching up to do. He came back hungry and placed a respectable 10th at Oasis in his first pro contest and a 6th place finish at Boulder. Later, an upset victory at Whittier secured his place in the skate elite. He won that one with a broken toe. With the first place prize earnings, Dwayne paid drunk driving fees.
He was just being hot, but he was inventing tricks and he was pushing the envelope and he was thinking differently about skateboarding. It just opened the door to how many things were possible, and he definitely had a lot of slide maneuvers that no one can even do now. Like, people just don't do those tricks. It was a whole new way of skating.
It was a pretty fucked up but pretty cool, crazy fucking decade, you know. Disco and punk rock were like coinciding, and styles were changing and attitudes were changing, and you know, the decadence of greed and money and everything was in full effect. It was, you know, life at its largest.
In 1980, if you skateboarded, you were hated. Dwayne took on the idea and the feeling of that time. It was rebellious, it was aggressive, and it was on edge, you know? It's not the way it is now. Now it's Little League.
Unlike the way skateboarders are perceived today, the skaters of the 80s were never taken seriously for their courage. They got no love and no sympathy for the frustration from being banned in the streets and on the sidewalks where their boards were born.
You know, you against the world, you against your parents, you against every 7-Eleven clerk. I mean, if you had your skateboard, you were marked.
You know, there weren't as many contests, there was no money to be made in it. Not that anyone did it for that, but it was just like the whole thing kind of petered out a little bit.
During the early 80s, Dwayne was at his competitive best as the widespread popularity of skateboarding descended into a downhill slide. These were the days when Dwayne did what the skateboard world remembers him for. He made the park era come to life. With a Nazi-like appearance and a fuck you attitude, he grabbed skateboarding by the balls and gave it back to the skaters.
The whole attitude of Thrasher came out of Dwayne and Olsen's persona and the whole punk rock underground movement.
The fact that Dwayne was around and practically a mascot for Thrasher magazine, I mean, just the epitome of the attitude and where it was coming from.
The name Thrasher, I think, came out of Dwayne's mouth.
What he did was push him right to the edge.
Those contests were pretty intense. You know, those guys would come out, they'd be bloody. Crowds were small, but just yelling and screaming and shitting their pants right along with the skaters. It was parks, and it was cement, and it was pools and kinks and coping and upland death sessions where I think everybody would slam. And in the heat of the battle in the Gold Cup Series, against Eddie Alguera and Grisham and guys that were kind of going out, that were some of the greatest skateboarders that have ever lived.
Dwayne Peters, second on the Pro Series in skateboarding right now on the vertical or the bowl competitions. You're going to be up against Eddie Alguera, the #1 man, pretty soon, probably in the finals today at the High Roller Park. How do you feel about coming up against Eddie once again?
I'm not scared or anything. He doesn't bother me. I just got to make all my tricks. And because like he's got all his own tricks and I got mine, and if I pull them off as high as I can, you know, it's all just a matter of who gets the gnarliest and who goes for it more, I guess. You know, I'm just going to try and compete and do my best.
Dwayne kept it simple. Bare bones, all style, all attitude.